My pranams to all Atma Jyotis, divine light of the self. Today, let us contemplate on suffering, the nature of suffering, and how can you be free from suffering. Is it possible to be free from suffering? What is suffering? Suffering is an experience of pain, unpleasantness, uncomfortable situation in life, which we don't want, but it's happening in our life. Is it possible to be free from suffering? And if it is possible, how it is possible to be free from suffering? Before we understand this, we need to understand the difference between the pain and suffering. Pain is a momentary experience. When I am going in the street, when I fell down, there is a pain in the body. Okay, the pain is momentary; it will heal within a few days. But suffering is different from pain. Suffering is repeated experience of pain in the mind. Pain which is momentary is prolonged through suffering. The pain can be physical or mental. Physical pain is when you hurt yourself. Mental pain is when somebody shouts at you, somebody hurts you. But they're all momentary. But the suffering can be forever. Suffering can go till you die, or even after death, into next life. Suppose somebody calls you a donkey. It hurts. It's a mental pain. But if you recall that mental pain every day, so that person called me donkey. Okay. And next 50 years of life, you can hurt yourself. So what is the difference between pain and suffering? Pain is what happens to you. Suffering is what you do to yourself. Pain is what happens to you in life, and suffering is what you do to yourself by again and again repeatedly going through that. In one sense, the pain cannot be avoided, but suffering, yes, because suffering is your choice. You can remove suffering from your life by not hurting yourself. Somebody called you a donkey, he hurt you once. That you cannot avoid. But remembering that and getting hurt every day is the suffering which you cause to yourself. That you can avoid. So in that sense, the pain is unavoidable, but suffering is avoidable. You can remove suffering from the life. This you have to understand. Then also pain is a necessary part of life. Pain is a way of nature telling us something is important happening. Take attention. For example, I hurt my leg. There's a bleeding and pain. If there's no pain, I will not notice that hurt, bleeding. So I'll bleed to death. The nature is telling, look, through pain, look, there's something important happening, notice it. That's the way of nature telling. The pain is natural. Suffering is unnatural. Right? We can get rid of suffering. The pain is accompanied many times very significant events in life. For example, a childbirth is painful event for the mother. But the painful event also gives a lot of importance to the mother. Significant thing is happening. So the nature brings to our notice significant things through pain. So this we have to understand. Right? Pain is natural in one sense. Suffering is unnatural. Suffering is caused by yourself. Can we learn how to live without suffering? Even there are people who live without pain also. That's another extreme case. We have heard stories of Sri Ramana Maharshi. Ramana Maharshi had a very, very painful cancer called sarcoma in his left hand. He went to surgery, and the surgery took about 4 hours at that time. Entire surgery was performed without anesthesia. Without anesthesia, surgery was performed. The doctors had never done such thing in their life. Throughout the surgery, Ramana Maharshi was fully aware, conscious, and very silent and peaceful. The doctor said, completing the surgery, they felt they were in meditation. The entire room was so silent and serene. There was no sign of any pain in Ramana Maharshi. So he had transcended the pain also. So one level we can say suffering we can transcend, and second level we can say pain also can be transcended, which is natural. So today let us contemplate on the aspects of pain and suffering. Let us go into details of this. Pain or suffering is an experience in life, right? Any experience. So now the experience, when it happens, it's always non-dual. Any experience in life is a unitary experience. For example, if I am looking at a flower with total attention, then I am one with the flower. There's only experiencing happening. There's no separation between the experiencer and the experienced. That separation will happen when the mind comes into picture. Mind says, this is flower, this is me. Okay, the split happens after the attention shifts from the flower to the mind. This we have discussed already. So any experience in life, a total experience is nameless experience. There's no naming happens. The naming happens after the experience, or when the experience is broken by the mind, saying that, oh, that is flower, that is me. In nameless experience, there is no experiencer and experienced. There's one total experience. For whom is the experience? Who is experiencing that nameless experience? The self is experiencing itself, because there's only consciousness. The self, yesterday we discussed, has no name, even though every name is pointing to the self. All 7 billion names in the world are pointing to the name of the self in each of the individual. The self itself is nameless. The reality called self is a nameless reality. And when the self experiences anything, that experience also is nameless. Nameless experience. Nameless reality, which is called Atma, this self, which is I principle, what I call as I, real I, is experiencing itself. The experience also nameless, timeless, spaceless in any experience. For example, you are enjoying a hobby, maybe it's painting or art or music. When you're totally engrossed in that, you don't know the time, you don't know the space, right? The time is gone, the space is gone. That experience is a nameless experience. Only when you look at a watch, oh, I spent 2 hours. Right? The total experience, where there's no separation between the self and the object, is called nameless experience. Who is experiencing the nameless experience? The nameless reality, the self experiences itself. Then when the self experiences itself, there's no time, there's no space. It's a total experience. The total experience is if you look at our life, all our experiences are total experience only. But immediately the mind comes into picture and breaks it. When the nameless experience gets converted to named experience, the naming starts. Oh, this is what it is. This is what I am. Okay. He is that. So the naming starts. The naming is a functioning of the mind. The nameless experience gets broken into the names. When the naming happens, the identity comes into picture. Till that point, there is no identity. When the identity comes into picture, then you label it. Oh, this is a good experience, this is a bad experience. I didn't like it, I like it. Can you understand the sequence? Any experience of life is a nameless experience, where the self, which is nameless, is experiencing itself, which is also nameless. That's a pure experience. That's exactly what happens in every experience. Every experience is non-dual only. Does this in the context of pain? We'll come to that. Every experience is non-dual only. Are you understand? The duality comes the moment mind comes into picture and gives a name to that, identity to that. And naming always happens from memory. Right? Oh, this is Prabhu. That is you. So naming is happening from the memory. Memory is always related to the past. Memory is not current. So the past you are bringing to the present, which is an illusion that we have already discussed, illusionary nature of memory. They are superimposed on the present. So every experience is blissful because it's a total experience. There's no experience or experienced in any experience for everybody. And that's called pure experience. Are you getting what I'm saying? This is what happens in case of a child. A child always has the most pure experience because there's no mind there. Mind does not come into picture. The child doesn't know the distinction between the self and the other. It's a total experience. Okay, where the self, Atma, the pure awareness, experiences itself because experience is happening in consciousness. There's no subject objectivity. This is true for all experiences because all experiences are non-dual. There's no dual experience at all. The duality comes because of the mind. Is this understood? The moment mind comes into picture, the mind gives a name. And name is always from the past. The past is brought from the past you are bringing and superimposing on the present, which is actually an illusion. The real present moment experience is non-dual and blissful for anybody and everybody. But our mind doesn't stay there. Mind immediately comes into the picture, starts naming the experience. That's where the split happens. Correct? So from that perspective, any experience of the body and mind and perception is non-dual. A perception rises in consciousness and merges back into consciousness. A thought or feeling rises in consciousness and merges back in consciousness. It's almost like a wave rises in ocean, goes back to ocean. So like the thoughts and feelings and emotions keep rising and falling back into consciousness. The thought or feeling or emotion is the perception which is rising and falling back into consciousness. And they are non-dual when that happens. That includes the pain also in the body. It's a non-dual experience. Right? So when there's non-dual experience, can there be suffering? For suffering to happen, there's a duality required. For example, the fire burns. Right? Fire burns. But can fire burn itself? Fire can burn something else. Fire cannot burn itself. Are you getting what I'm saying? Can fire burn itself? The snake has poison, but the poison cannot kill itself. Poison can kill something else. The duality is required for suffering to happen or pain to happen. That's why
pain body is involved.
Listen carefully. As the question there. So when there is non-duality, there is no suffering, there is no pain. That's why Brahman, who is the infinite reality, all-pervading reality, is the totality. There's no suffering at all, even though every living being is going through. Because the Brahman is always totally present in the presence. There's no duality, split subject-object duality. That's why it's infinite bliss all the time. The moment subject-object duality comes, the pain and suffering comes into picture. How is that? We'll discuss. Right? First, understand that a fire cannot burn itself. The poison cannot kill itself. Similarly, when there is a totality of experience, that experience cannot cause suffering. Let's say there's an experience of suffering, experience of pain. The pain cannot be painful to itself. Pain has to be painful to somebody. Are you getting what I'm saying? When you are experiencing pain, the body, and the consciousness is one reality, one total experience. And that moment, there is no pain, because there is a pain in the sense. The experience is a pain. But pain cannot hurt itself. There should be duality. So have you noticed many times, sometimes when we meet with an accident, let's say we fall from a bike, or we hurt ourselves with a door, actually we don't feel at that moment. The pain starts after some time. Have you noticed that? Even when people meet a serious accident, okay, they met with serious accident, they know they feel something, nothing has happened. They get up, and once they start walking, ego starts coming to picture. I have met with an accident, bike accident. Okay, I was pillion rider, and the bike met with an accident when I was young. I fell down. Nothing happened. I got up. People gathered around me. Anything happened? Nothing happened. Then a few minutes later, I noticed that all over my body there's hurt. But when that happened, in that moment, nothing is there. Because there's a total experience. There's no duality has come into picture. The moment duality comes into picture, the whole problem starts. You're understanding?
So there won't be pain also.
Listen carefully. Okay, listen, full logically listen. Then I'll tell you. When that moment, everything is happening in total, it's a total non-experience, that no name. What I call as nameless experience, or a pure experience. There's no pain, there's no suffering, it's only a bliss. Because pain cannot hurt itself. Suffering cannot suffer itself. The snake poison cannot kill itself. The fire cannot burn itself. Please recall any moment in your life when you meet with an accident. That moment you don't feel it. Only after some time the ego starts coming into picture, then you notice. Ego says, "Oh, such a big accident I met." Then no pain comes into picture. That moment, there's only total experience. Okay, body may react because the body has a program to react, but really the pain, the intensity of pain, the suffering will start only moments later when the ego starts coming into picture. As long as there's no ego comes into picture, only naming is started. That what you call as this experience and experiencer has split has happened. Is this understood? Is it your experience? What I'm telling, is it your experience? My experience I'm telling.
I had experience.
Right?
I had a fall in near arch.
Huh.
This was broken up. It was hanging. I didn't notice. Sir.
Correct.
I got up and drew the.
That moment, the pain cannot pain itself. The hurt cannot hurt itself because it's only. So when the experience is there, there's no experiencer and experience. It's a nameless experience. In that experience, it's a total experience. It's a pure experience. In that pure experience, there's no hurt, there's no pain, there's no suffering. That's why the Brahman or pure consciousness is a total reality. Everybody's pain is Brahman's pain. Everybody's suffering is Brahman's pain. But there's no pain and suffering in Brahman because it's a total experience. It's a totality. Otherwise, Brahman would have run away with so much of suffering going in the world. So, is this understood? When it is a totality, there is no pain or suffering. The naming, when the moment ego comes into picture, there is a suffering. Is this much understood now?
When the body consciousness comes, pain comes.
And that is the reason Ramana Maharshi didn't even feel the pain when the surgery was done. He was in the total experience. He was a Brahman. He was not Ramana Maharshi body and mind. He was the supreme reality. So surgeons can come and cut the hand. There is no pain. Because he became the pain. He is the pain. When you are in totality, okay, there's only experience. There's no experience and experienced. The pain itself cannot pain itself. Hurt it cannot hurt itself. The suffering cannot suffer itself. The fire cannot burn itself. Okay. So because there's only one, there's a non-dual reality is there. The non-duality reality has taken the form of suffering, pain there. And the pain cannot hurt anybody. Right? The essential nature of any thought or feeling or emotion is consciousness. So the consciousness alone is there. It's like water has taken the form of wave. The wave cannot hurt water. Right? A big wave can hurt another small wave, but wave itself cannot hurt water. The pain cannot hurt consciousness. The consciousness has taken the form of pain. The consciousness has taken the form of thought. So that itself cannot affect anybody, including consciousness. This much is clear. Now, where does the suffering start? The suffering starts the moment you give a name to that. You start splitting. Oh, this is Prabhu. Prabhu met with an accident. Oh, there's a big accident. See, so much of hurt is there. Then the memory comes into picture. Mind. Right? The identity called myself is brought from memory and naming starts. The nameless experience is given a name. Okay. The moment you give a name, you are bringing in a experiencer and experienced. As long as the experiencer is Brahman, there's no problem. Pure consciousness, there's no problem. The moment the experiencer identity is brought from memory, the suffering starts. Now here you have to be careful. Okay. The identity was in the memory. It's not a reality. Identity is a thought. Prabhu is a thought. This thought called Prabhu never experienced the pain. Pain has happened and then this identity is brought in. Listen carefully. Are you getting what I'm saying? One who claims that I am suffering was not there in the scene of suffering. It is a memory element. It is a past entity. A thought cannot know other thought. And mind can have only one thought at a time. When the pain thought is there, self-identity thought cannot be there. When self-identity thought comes, the pain thought cannot be there. Because mind can have only one thought. When you are experiencing something, the self-identity is not there. When you brought it, okay, this experience has gone to memory, and you are putting these two together, which have never met, which are not related to each other at all.
So the self-identity has the pain?
Self-identity cannot experience the pain, because self-identity, when it appeared, when it was experience is going on, self-identity was not there.
Yeah.
When it is brought, the experience has gone. The experience has gone to memory. So you are related to entities in the memory which are not related.
Self-identity brings in the pain experience, no? Recollects the pain experience.
Yeah, both are from the past now. Okay. So one who is saying sufferer is the self-identity, which is also already a past. It's the ego, memory. The pain also, the experience, the momentary experience also has gone into memory. So you are bringing two from memory and saying, giving a name. This is the pain. This I am the sufferer, and saying the suffering starts. That moment when it's happening, there is neither pain, there is no suffering, nothing is there. It's all played upon by the memory and self-identity. Are you getting what I'm saying? Now, of course, there may be hurt there, so you will recollect the hurt and you relate to that. The identity had nothing to do with the pain. Identity has nothing. It was not there in the experience. It is like a policeman in movies. The hero comes and thrashes all the villains. Then the policemen come and take a photograph along with the thieves. The ego only takes ownership. It has nothing to do with the situation. And then he starts crying. Oh, I am suffering. I am feeling pain. It makes a lot of drama. And that drama you call as suffering. Whereas the real you, which is not ego, which is Atma, had no suffering at all. Because Atma cannot suffer. When it is only the self is the reality, where is the suffering possible? The fire cannot burn itself. The one who is making drama has no suffering because it never experienced anything. It is making a lot of drama. It is a mental entity, mind reality, which is not real. The memory we have already discussed. What is mind? What is memory? Are you understanding the paradox of suffering? That guy will come and say, no, I suffer, I fail. When the experience is happening, that is not there at all. There is no scope for the ego to come into picture. When the present moment, in the present moment experience, there is no possibility that ego is there. When the ego comes, that experience is disappear, or experience is broken. And ego claims. Ego is one entity which will claim everything as belonging to itself. Nothing belongs to itself. By making a claim, it makes a big noise out of the situation. It builds a big identity for itself. And it's not at all real, because it's all based on the memory. Memory is not real. Ego is like a broker. Okay? Ego is like a broker. What does the broker's job do? When I wanted to purchase a house, the broker introduced me to the house owner. See, this is the house. He showed me this so nice house. And he took 2% commission from me and 2% commission from the house owner to make the deal. The house doesn't belong to the broker. The money doesn't belong to the broker. Okay. So, but he makes a transaction and takes a credit. Ego is like that. Ego takes the credit for consciousness. It says, I am the self. It identifies the body. It doesn't belong to nature. It belongs to Prakriti and says, I am the body. And then takes the credit for suffering, which is not there for it, which happened without its presence.
Why did Ramana Maharshi say body has the pain?
We'll come to that. Wait. That is the answer when people ask the question. All right. So, is this much clear? If you are totally in any moment, there is no pain, there is no pleasure, there is only infinite bliss, because self alone is there. That's a pure experience. The moment you come out of the pure experience and go to mind to fetch the name, you start naming the experience, the suffering starts. Okay. Now let us see really what happens in this whole process. Okay. I discussed earlier. The background of all our life is Turiya, or the self. Our entire experience of life is happening with the Turiya as the background. Turiya means the Sakshi, the witness, the Atma. The waking state comes, the waking body comes, waking word comes and disappears. The dream state comes, the dream body comes and disappears. And deep sleep comes and disappears. But nothing happens to the background, the self, which is my real nature. Right? Atma. Is it clear? That you have discussed in the Avastatraya Prakriya. So nothing happens to self. Self is like a, you can say, movie screen. On the movie screen, the pictures come, disappear. Pictures come, disappear. But nothing happens to the movie screen. So similarly, experience appear and disappear. Experience appear and disappear. Experience appear and disappear in pure awareness, the consciousness, self. But when the experience is there, you cannot separate out the self from the experience. It's one reality, one in totality. When the movie is there, you cannot separate the movie from the screen. They're one. Similarly, when the experience is there, experience can be thought, feeling, or emotion. It is one reality. The self and the experience is one. So before the thought or feeling or experience happened, what was there? Tell me. Before thought came, there was Turiya. There was a non-dual state. Screen was there. Before the movie got projected, the movie is, screen is there. After the movie got projected, the screen is there. Correct? So before thought happened, who was there? The self, Atma, I principle was there. There's the screen. After the thought, what is there? The self or I principle is there. Right? Because that's the background. In between two thoughts, in between two feelings, in between two emotions, the gap is always the Atma. Correct? But in the feeling or thought or experience, the Atma takes the form of the feeling, thought, experience. There's no separation. Are you getting me? Like water is still water, and wave comes, water takes the form of wave, and again water. Right? So before let's say before the accident is an event. What was there? What were you? A thoughtless awareness, Atma, Turiya. A thought came now, and thought disappeared, appeared and disappeared in consciousness. And after that, what are you? The Atma, Turiya. Right? A gap between all thoughts and feelings and emotions is Atma only, Turiya only. Correct? Yes or no? So, the Atma cannot suffer when the experience is happening, because it is the experience. It cannot suffer before the experience is happening, because there is no experience. It cannot suffer after the experience is happening. So there is no suffering for the Atma. Kutastha, Chaitanya, Atma, awareness, all means same thing. Absolutely, there is no suffering possible. Between the thoughts, there is no suffering possible, because Atma alone is there. When the thought comes, Atma has taken the form, the thought has taken the form of self. A fire cannot burn itself, so there is no suffering for the self, Atma. And after the thought is over, also there is no suffering possible.
The thought could be a suffering thought. Thought of suffering.
No, that is not for the Atma I am trying to tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Right? The Atma cannot suffer because it's always non-dual. There's no duality come into Atma. Dvaita cannot come into the self. Dvaita can come only because of memory and the ego. Right? So, real you never suffers. Real you is Atma. The false you called ego suffers. So is there suffering for you? Is there suffering for you any time in life? In any lifetime? Are you getting the logic? Between any experience, between two experience, in between two thoughts or in between two experiences, self only is there, Atma, Turiya. There's no duality there. There's no self and the other. It's only one reality. When the experience comes, it has taken the form of experience. There's no split there. I and the experience split is not there. So then there is no suffering, because a suffering cannot suffer itself. It has taken the form of suffering. A fire cannot burn itself. And after that experience is over, also this again you are back to Atma, where it's non-dual. So as long you are in non-dual reality, there is no suffering. When there is no manifestation of experience, the self is by itself. It is pure experience, pure awareness, is bliss. When there is an experience, thought or experience comes, it takes that form. So now there's only experience. Even the experience cannot hurt the self or can cause pain to the self, because that's non-dual. So as the Atma, you had never suffering in the past, present and future. Are you clear?
You're saying because the consciousness itself takes the form of pain, there is no pain.
Conscious itself is of the form of pain. Water itself takes the form of wave. How wave can hurt water?
Wave can hurt something else.
Yeah, wave can hurt something else, but not water. Okay. So there is, for the real self, Atma, there is never suffering in the past, present and future. Atma doesn't know what is suffering. Atma knows only bliss. Atma is only bliss. The self is only bliss. As Kutastha, you are always blissful. Okay. The problem comes when you take the form of ego. Correct? So experience happened, then the mind now brings the ego. And immediately the Chidabhasa or the Atma takes the form of ego. Now claims the experience. There the suffering starts. Understand? Just like earlier, Atma took the form of experience and no suffering happened. Now it takes the form of ego. Ego thought appears. It has become ego thought. Chidabhasa has taken the form of ego. Okay. Now it claims the experience. Now the suffering starts. Are you able to understand the mechanism? Suppose Chidabhasa is not taking the form of ego, but Chidabhasa stays as Atma, the self. Then there's no suffering. Immediately after experience, if it doesn't take the form of ego, doesn't give the name ego and I and the doesn't name the experience, correct? Then there's no suffering possible. The suffering is coming because ego is coming into picture. Can you live without ego? That's exactly reason the concept of witness is thought out. Become a witness, non-judgmental witness. The self, this is experience. Immediately after experience, you jump and become the ego. The Chidabhasa, mind takes the form of ego, and Chidabhasa takes the form of ego. And ego is not judgmental. Ego will bring raga and dvesha into picture. I don't like this. I don't like this. Okay, this is not good for me. It starts doing commentary. Then you get into another cycle. Thoughts after thoughts will come. Suppose you are able to remain as witness, then ego cannot play the role. So the witness, the teaching for all the spiritual teaching is learn to be a witness. By learning to be a witness, you start disassociating yourself, becoming a witness, ego. You start disidentifying with the body. Right? Some de-addiction has to happen. Otherwise, immediately the Chidabhasa will jump, Chidabhasa will identify the ego. The Chidabhasa has to learn how to disidentify the ego. That's why the witness is coming to picture. Are you getting what I'm saying? Now, as witness, you are training your mind, be detached. Don't jump into ego. I am the witness. I am not the body. I am not the mind. I am not the intellect. I am pure consciousness. I am the witness. So you are training the mind to become witness. And this training of the mind to be witness is also in the domain of manifest world, phenomena. Right?
But in the witness mode, pain is there.
You watch the pain as if without bringing the ego. You
Suffering
accept.
is avoided.
Yeah, listen carefully. You are disidentifying yourself with the ego identity. The pain is there because you are watching the pain. But you are not judging. Raga, dvesha, you are not bringing in. Attraction, repulsion, you are not bringing in. That means your ego identity, you are not bringing in. The pain is momentary happening. Correct? So witness is also in the domain of phenomena. Witness is also not absolute reality. That's why yesterday I said Jiva, Chidabhasa, Sakshi, and then Kutastha. The Sakshi is also observing the world. The Kutastha doesn't observe the world because Kutastha is everything. This is the totality. Right? So as witness, you start disidentifying with the body, mind, and intellect. What do you do? Nanu, nanembudu, nanalla, ideha, manabuddhi, nanalla, sachidanandatma, shiva nanu nani, shivoham, shivoham, shivoham. I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the intellect, I am pure consciousness, Shiva Swarupi. For whom is the training? Not for the witness. Chidabhasa takes the witness bhava. That means it takes the attitude of witness, and now the intellect is trained for that. Intellect is now trained for becoming, instead of servant, becoming a servant of ego, it is trained to become a servant of witness, non-judgmental witness. So the hold of the ego is reduced. The habit pattern of the mind to jump into the ego for any solution is reduced. Are you clear? Now you become more and more witness to the situation. When you are witness, now the witness also has to be dropped now, because witness also is a thought. It's also in the phenomenal domain. So now you have to realize that witness is nothing but kutastha. Witness is the Atma. That is actually to Nididyasa. You realize your true nature. So now, if your true nature is coming into picture, before any thought or after any thought, then there's no duality at all. That's what happens in the case of Ramana Maharshi. But in our case, till we reach the stage, witness can be brought in. That means the pain can be there. Witness can witness the pain, but not genuinely.
So Ramana Maharshi was in Kutastha mode.
Brahman.
Not witness mode.
Not witness mode. So witness is the intermediate stage for learning, practicing. Okay? So that you don't identify with the ego. Ego doesn't jump in and come into picture. Really what has to be there? Brahman only should be there. Kutastha only should be there. But you are taking the form of ego, you means Chidavasa, which is yourself. Instead of becoming Kutastha or Sakshi, it is taking the form of ego. So now gradually, and because of the mind, Kutastha is closely associated with the mind. So the mind has to be retrained to take the form of Sakshi and then finally recognize Kutastha. Alright? So please understand, the suffering and pain is never for you. For real you, there is no suffering, there is no pain. The suffering and pain is for a false identity called ego, which is not real. It's a broker. Right? That's why for any question, Ramana Maharshi will ask, who are you? If you are a jiva, definitely will suffer. If you are sakshi, you will observe the pain. If you are kutastha, there is no question of pain and suffering. So Ramana Maharshi asks the question, who are you? In this question, who are you? The hold of the ego is reduced. Otherwise, ego will jump in and say, claim the experience. The ego is actually what you call as ego wants to claim experience. Ego is ownership. It will come into picture. Ego is not real. It is borrowing its identity from the body and the consciousness. So it's like a marriage function. In the marriage function, there's a marriage boys party and girls party. There are some people who come well dressed. They talk very nicely to all the people. People think that the girl side thinks that they are from boy side thinks that they are girl side. Their whole purpose is to come to the marriage party and enjoy food and go. Okay. So then girl side asks boy side, who are these people? Are they is it related to boy? The boy says, we thought it's related to girl. Then when these two people are talking, this man just quietly disappears. The well-dressed man. Ego is the well-dressed man. It borrows the identity. It is a thief in between. From the body which belongs to nature, ego says, I am the body. From the consciousness which belongs to the Atma, the self, it says, I am consciousness. Now when you start asking a question, who are you? Who am I? The boy side and girl side start discussing, who am I? Quietly, ego disappears. That's why Ramana Maharshi says, inquire, who are you? The ego disappears. Ego doesn't exist. It's a false entity. Only non-duality is the reality. Tell me now, where is the suffering? To remove the suffering is also another suffering. Because you are trying to remove what is not there. So, to become free from suffering, you have to understand that the suffering is never your nature. You are the Atma, you are the self. There is no suffering in Atma, non-duality. And all suffering is an illusion created by the ego. That also you have to understand. You have to get rid of the illusion called ego by first learning how to be Atma, first how to become Sakshi first. And from Sakshi, you have to realize I am the Kutastha, Atma. This is the only way you can become free from suffering. Suffering itself is an illusion. Any questions? Okay, so the question is, being in the present moment isn't to nullify the suffering. See, the present moment is also, the so-called present moment is also illusion. There's no present moment at all. Okay, the time is not a reality. So the question asked is, to be in the present moment is escape, is a way to escape from the suffering.
Nullify the ego.
To nullify the ego. See, the present moment is also unreal, because the time is unreality. Past, present, and future is unreal. For example, tell me what is present moment now. 9 it is, 9 now it's at 10 o'clock 51 minutes. Is it present moment? The moment I think it's present moment is already crossed. I cannot catch a present moment. Okay, so I am the presence. I am the Sakshi. To live as a Sakshi, to live as a witness is the solution. So as a witness, as a lot of things happen to me in life. What happens to me in life, I cannot stop. This all because of prarabdha karma or backlog. Nothing can stop what happens to you at a given point of time. Okay, but don't offer any resistance to what happens in your life. Live a resistance-free life. Be free from resistance to life. That's called living in the present moment. Right? The moment you offer resistance, ego comes into picture. He will make a lot of judgments. Hey, this is not right. This should not happen. Why it happened to me? Why it happened to me only? I am such a good man, you see. Huh? I have not done any sin in my whole of life. How can it happen to me? And see, I am such a good man. So many people are there, sinners. They are actually enjoying life. I should have also done like that. So the running commentary will start from the ego. The moment you say, I don't offer any resistance to life, whether good or bad happens to me. I don't have good or bad in life anyway. Right? That is called living in the present moment. Because present moment you cannot catch. A life without resistance to what happens to you is called living as a witness. Living as witness leads to living as Atma, pure awareness. First learn not to offer resistance to what happens to the life. Then when you don't offer resistance, the mind will become calm. Ego will not come and possess you. Then you will become Atma, the Sakshi. So then what will happen? Right actions will happen from you. The ego comes, it will completely distort the whole thing. Reactions will happen. So I won't say living in the present moment is the solution. Living a life free of resistance to life, without freedom, without fighting or resistance to life, is the solution. Good thing happens, bad thing happens. There's nothing called good or bad in life also. There are only events in life. That event you start judging good or bad based on the ego. Don't judge. Judgment free. That life is living the life as Sakshi. Start living the life as witness. That is the solution. And witness gradually, you start realizing the witness is nothing but Kutastha, Atma or Brahman. Then you transcend the witness. Witness is also in the domain of what we call as phenomena. Then you transcend the domain, then you are Kutastha. In Kutastha or Atma, there is no separation between knower and known. It's one duality, one non-dual reality. Right? So the solution is non-judgmental awareness. That's being witness in all situations in life. There's neither good or bad in life. Okay, there are only events in life. So we are going out. It may start raining. Oh, it's a bad day. There's no good day or bad day. Raining is nature. How can you call it bad day? Bad day is your labeling, judgment. The labeling or judgment comes from the ego. If you are able to observe, oh, this is how it is, let me take an umbrella. Then you are living as a witness. Okay. When you are judging, reactions will happen in your life, and reaction is unconscious behavior. Unconscious behavior will accumulate more unconscious behavior. When you start becoming witness, you will start living consciously. And from gradually consciously to you go to pure awareness and become stabilized as Kutastha. Is that answer clear? Any questions? Can you close for the day? So remember, in any experience, non-dual experience is always non-dual. There is no suffering in experience. Before non-dual, before any experience, you are Atma or Turiya. In the gap between two thoughts, you are Turiya. After the gap between two thoughts, you are Turiya. So as Turiya or Atma, there is no suffering you at all, because it's always a nameless experience. Okay. The problem starts when the naming starts, when the ego comes into picture, which is we start judging. The solution is to learn how to live as a witness, non-judgmental awareness. Then ego, the hold of the ego starts weakening. You start becoming Sakshi. From Sakshi, you start realizing yourself as Turiya, or Brahman, or Atma, or Kutastha, awareness. All this means same. So there is no suffering in life for the real you. There is always suffering in life for the false you called ego. So get rid of the false you and start living as real you, Atma, Kutastha. This is the solution for freedom from suffering. We close for the day.